Hello, I'm Robert Kelly, and today on Record All Monsters, Rodan, Ishiro Honda, and the inevitable tragedy of giant monsters.
Hitamatsu is a mining community. Almost all of us who live here are dependent upon the mines for our livelihood. It was in our Kitamatsu mines that an unusual horror began. On a day that started much like any other day.
Godzilla had been a huge hit for Toho Studios in 1954. Its sequel, Godzilla Raids Again, had also been a hit the next year, but not as successful as the previous film. So presumably the thinking was monsters are in, but maybe we need this Ishiro Honda guy specifically directing these movies, because they brought him back for Rodan in 1956. I know it has seemed that I was centering the American side of things over the past few episodes that dealt with Japanese monster movies, but we had very little time to talk about Joseph E. Levine, and we're going to get a lot more time to talk about Ishiro Honda, Tomoyuki Tanaka, Akira Ifukube, and Eiji Tsuburaya. We'll have a much longer period to discuss them. I want to handle their stories properly and respectfully, so I didn't feel right trying to cram all of that info into 3 pages while also covering the story of how Godzilla reached America. So here we are now, beginning to talk about the forefathers of Godzilla, and we'll begin with Ishiro Honda. I want to give a little bit of background on Honda as a person before we look at him as a filmmaker. He probably would have liked that one of the first things that come to my mind when I hear his name is the word pacifist. It's the first word after Godzilla, which he might have been less happy about. He was the son of a Buddhist monk. The family sold vegetables from the temple to get by. His oldest brother, Takamoto, became a military doctor and sent newspapers and boys' adventure magazines from the cities, instilling a love of science in his little brother. Both of these influences can be seen in his work as a director and as a writer. He went to film school in 1931, which led to his being hired by Photographic Chemical Laboratories, later Toho Studios, serving as assistant director from the first time in 1934. He was drafted into the Japanese Imperial Army that fall. 2 years later, a failed coup by one of Honda's commanding officers and some others resulted in his unit being sent to Manchukuo, a puppet state of the Japanese Empire in China, on a wild goose chase after a Chinese resistance leader. The remainder of his 18-month enlistment would be spread out over the following years, next being recalled in 1939. During World War II, Honda remained in China, fighting the resistance there and managing what were called comfort stations, which were essentially state-sanctioned brothels. For a more complex look at this, check out somethingghoulish.com. Honda was lucky in the war. His deployment in 1944 was bound toward the Philippines, but his unit missed the boat, and they were sent to China, where the fighting was less intense. On his last deployment, a shell landed near him but didn't go off. He kept it on his desk for the rest of his life. He was taken prisoner, but according to the book Ishiro Honda, A Life in Film from Godzilla to Kurosawa, he only ever said of that time that he was treated well by his Chinese captors. When Japan surrendered, he remained behind for 7 months, overseeing the return of power to Chinese officials. He was well liked by the locals, who invited him to stay when his service ended. He gave it some thought, but decided to return home to Japan, hoping his wife and children survived the war, and that Toho was still in business and had a job for him. As a parting gift, some of the villagers presented him with rubbings of proverbs from area temples. One read, "Read good books, say kind words, do good deeds, be a good person." He would often write these for himself on the back of his scripts. He returned to his wife and family, and there was a job for him at Toho. In 1949, he served as chief assistant director to Akira Kurosawa on his film Stray Dog. The same year, he directed his first film, a documentary called Ise-shima, commissioned by the prefecture's officials to boost tourism. He directed several more documentaries, including Story of a Co-op, which he also wrote. In 1951, he directed his first feature film, The Blue Pearl, which was about pearl divers and featured extensive underwater photography, a first in Japanese film. He directed 2 films in 1952 and 2 more in 1953, including Eagle of the Pacific, where he would work with special effects director Eiji Tsuburaya for the first time. And that's where we'll leave him for now, on the very brink of Godzilla, and we'll return to what makes Rodan work so well, part of which is Ishiro Honda. In a lot of ways, Rodan is very dissimilar to Godzilla or Godzilla Raids Again. Though all 3 begin with accidents, disappearances, or deaths, the 2 earlier giant monster movies from Japan brought out their monsters relatively quickly. Godzilla shows up about 20 minutes into his debut feature, and almost immediately in the sequel. We don't see the titular monster of Rodan until it's more than halfway over, almost 40 minutes in. Before that, it's a murder mystery in a mining town with some giant atomic bugs called Manganulan thrown in for extra flavor. The slow build really pays off when we see Rodan hatch from his egg for the first time in a flashback. Maybe that structure was borrowed from the American version of Godzilla. Probably not. But maybe. Once the ball gets rolling, though, what we see is some of the best monster action that the genre has to offer up to this point. We wind up getting 2 Rodans attacking the city of Fukuoka, before returning to the volcanic lair above the mining town where it all began. The Japanese Self-Defense Force, the JSDF, from here on out, forever and anon, fire at the volcano, hoping to bury the monsters and triggering an eruption. One Rodan is able to escape, but the other is caught by the smoke and collapses into the molten lava. The other cannot bear to leave its mate behind and plunges down to join them. They both burn to death. Oh man. One of the major through lines in giant monster movies, up to and including Rodan, is that the monster just can't get a happy ending. Kong was gunned down by airplanes. Or was it Beauty killed the beast? The Rhedosaurus had a radioactive bullet put in its chest. Godzilla was revealed to be as much a victim as anyone else before the oxygen destroyer reduced it to bones and dust. And the second Godzilla was buried in ice after a fight for its life. They're all tragic figures, the last of their kind. But then here comes Rodan, or rather, here come the Rodans. 2 monsters with just each other, the tragedy doubled with their loss. Instead of facing the world alone, they stay with their doomed love. A gothic romance with giant monsters. In 1957, the King brothers brought Rodan to the States and had a good run with it, giving it an extensive TV ad campaign. This was their first foray into the world of giant monster movies, but it wouldn't be the last. I'm just introducing a couple of key players for a little later on.
Of their kind, masters of the air and earth, the strongest, swiftest creatures that ever breathed. Now they sank against the earth like weary children. Each had refused to live without the other, and so they were dying together.
Hello, I'm Robert Kelly, host of Record All Monsters, and this is an ad for Anchor. That's right, an ad for Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. I was super intimidated to start this podcast until I heard about Anchor, and there are a number of things that made me feel more at ease to begin. First of all, it's free. They have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. They distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on multiple platforms, including whatever one you're listening to. And you can make money from your podcast easily with no minimum listenership. All you do is enter your information, Anchor takes care of the rest. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. This is the mandatory call for action that I have to read out now, but it's true. You can download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. I've been Robert Kelly, host of Record All Monsters, and this has been an ad for Anchor. Hello, I'm Robert Kelly. Welcome back to Record All Monsters. I'm here once again, and I say once again because we've done this once already, and through no fault of my guest, my sister Aubrey, through no fault of hers, the audio was damaged in some way. And so we're redoing this brief discussion of Rodan.
Yes, it's not my fault. Thank you.
So, Aubrey.
It's mine. I just wanted to hang out with you more. No, I'm just kidding.
Courtney,
but I would want to hang out with you more.
Thank you.
Courtney is here as well. And wonderful wife and producer, Courtney. So, Aubrey.
Yes, so.
Say hello to the people.
Hello to the people.
To the people.
To the people.
I'm kind of glad we're doing this again because I have loosened up a lot in my style of interviewing people since our first time around.
Okay.
So I think it makes for better radio. Not that our previous interview
I think
was
I did
bad.
a good job before.
You did a really good job. I didn't do as good a job.
You did fine.
I was
Stop
okay.
it.
But this, I've gotten better at it.
Okay.
So it's kind of a good thing.
If
I'm
you
trying to put
insist.
a positive spin on the fact that I don't know what happened to our last interview.
Oh, right. It was nobody's fault. Computer glitch.
Sure. Okay. So, let's start with the facts.
Mm-hmm.
The facts are that you are my sister, and you largely introduced me to giant monster movies.
You're welcome.
And so, you all are owe her a debt of gratitude if you enjoy
I'm the
this
best. Very nice.
And so we watched Rodan.
Yes.
Who is...
Yes, we did.
Rodan is your favorite giant monster.
Yes, he is.
Can you tell us a little bit about why?
He's really cool. I don't think he needs a lot of introduction. Like, yes, Godzilla is epic, but I think Rodan is like right there. I like dinosaurs. Flying things are cool, and he's like a phoenix dinosaur.
Yeah.
He's just everything cool.
Yeah, so we've watched Rodan a few times together, and we've seen his other appearances in other Godzilla movies. What is it, do you think, between his first movie, which we just watched, and like his later appearances? Do you have a preference between those, or like the newest one from last year?
Well, his first movie, they're establishing who he is, of course, against Godzilla. So he's got to make a big impression, and I think he does. The character design is really cool. The facial expressions, I mean, the way the wings, the membrane and stuff, the way they did it is really cool. His chest has these things on it. The actor who played him is really good. He does a really good job.
Yeah, that was Haruo Nakajima, and he was actually Godzilla in all the Godzilla movies up to Godzilla vs. Gigan. That was the last time he played him.
Yes.
Well, then that explains why the movements are so good and stuff.
Nakajima put a lot of work into his performances as these monsters. When he was assigned to play Godzilla, he went to the zoo and watched bears and gorillas and like how deliberately they moved and
he did research on it.
What did he watch for Rodans?
I've never actually seen any sources that say, oh, Nakajima-san went to the zoo and watched pelicans or whatever. So I don't know what he did for research, but his movements are very natural and
yeah, kind of like a bat.
Yeah, very much so. Ironically, we're recording this on the day after his birthday.
Oh, happy late birthday!
Yay!
So,
but comparatively, like say to the one where he just came out, I was very looking forward to seeing Rodan, and it didn't disappoint. I like lots of aspects of how they did things, and the molten fiery look. They did a really good job. I also like how in all of the Rodan movies, whichever one's from before or now, the effects of what would really happen, like when he was flying, the way it would affect the atmosphere and the air and people and the damage and destruction is so fun to watch, whether it's miniatures or special effects or whatever.
Yeah,
super cool.
It's really great. There's a shot, there's two really famous shots in this movie. One is the guy holding onto the tree while Rodan flies overhead to keep from being blown away. That got reused. Courtney and I were watching Ultra Q a couple nights ago, and they reused that shot. Because that was the special effects for the Ultra Q series were done by Eiji Tsuburaya, who did all the Toho movies. And then the famous shot we were talking about when we were watching it just now, where Nakajima, the wire got loose, and he was going to just fall down, but he caught himself with his legs, and it looks...
Yeah, so his feet are moving like over this building and destroying stuff, and it looks like he's doing on purpose, like Rodan is landing, and it's really cool looking.
Yeah. Very natural.
Glad they kept it, yeah.
I like that it's in a smaller city as well, like at least from... It's been a little while since I've watched it, but it's not in Tokyo, it's in...
Oh, right. Like every monster and alien goes to attack New York.
Right, yeah. It's in a different city, which I liked. And the mining aspect is interesting, because you don't see that in a lot of movies. Except My Bloody Valentine, which is very good.
We were talking about My Bloody Valentine while we were watching the movie. Aubrey hasn't seen it.
But it's good. The OG.
The original one. I don't think I've seen the newest one. But yeah, this takes place in a mining village, and the city that the Rodans attack, because there's two of them.
Yeah.
Dad, Rodan is a terrible monster. Yeah, but there's two of them. No, Rodan's great. They attack the city of Fukuoka, which when the King brothers are producing team who were essentially mobsters who decided they wanted to get into the film racket. They imported this. They distributed it in the U.S. And they saw the name Fukuoka written down in the dub script, and they were like, well, we gotta change that. Who's gonna wanna... I try to keep the show all ages, so I'm not even going to say what it sounds like.
I think they know.
So one of the other reasons I thought of having you on for this episode, Aubrey, besides just the fact that Rodan is your favorite monster,
yep,
is as I have, kind of lived with this movie for so long, and lived with some of my other interests. Another one you introduced me to was the kind of gothic romances, like the Bronte sisters.
Oh yeah, awesome
stuff like that. And I brought this up when I was on Monster Kid Radio, that I've come to kind of view this movie as like a cosmic horror gothic romance, like an H.P. Lovecraft gothic romance. Except there's not enough white people for him to have done it. I think there's like one white guy in the Air Force building. But what do you think of that? I think we've talked about this before.
We have. That's a growing genre that I really appreciate.
Cosmic horror or gothic romance?
Cosmic horror. Gothic romance can be easily misunderstood, but when you do it right, it's really important. And like you were saying, the first movie is the first Rodan movie. There's a lot of story that usually I love creature feature and kind of, like Placid or Jaws. Like I like the animal aspect of it, but the movie's still good even before you get to Rodan, because somehow the characters and everything, they're still carrying it. It's still a good story to watch. And I think that's in part because of the aspects of the movie being what you just said.
Right. Well, and you and I were talking the other day about what makes something cosmic horror. Because it's something you've just kind of been
unraveling, exploring.
Because we were talking about The Color Out of Space.
And like Mandy, and there's lots of maybe misconceptions about it. I understand the direct influence of H.P. Lovecraft, but I don't want people in its growing appreciation to just think that it's all tentacles.
Yeah. Well, and I tend to kind of class a lot of these early kaiju films as cosmic horror, because you're so frequently with the kaiju dealing with something you don't understand and you don't have the capability to understand. And Rodan, I think, makes an especially good use of that. The main character, Shiguru, I hope I'm saying that right, I'll have to consult Aubrey, and then she can tell me that I did it wrong, and I'll put a disclaimer at the front of this episode. He goes mute when they find him in the mine, because he's so traumatized.
He's traumatized.
And that's a recurring trope in a lot of cosmic horror.
And he can't deal with it, right? It's beyond his comprehension. And what's great about that one too is I love how what he remembers, or how he remembers, is by seeing the egg crack.
Yeah.
And he makes the connection, and it's like, that was an excellent transition. Like,
excellent. I had to, I'm sorry.
They high-fived. That's what that was. Yes, so I think this is a great, kind of an introduction to cosmic horror if you're already familiar with kaiju stories, because it brings a lot of the components without getting bogged down in like the Lovecraft Cthulhu mythos or whatever.
Some things are out of your hands, and you, as humans, you have to deal with them, to your capacity mentally.
Yeah, and I get into that a little bit in one of our later episodes, in one of the essay portions, about how you can either accept that there are things you can't understand and try to live with it, or you can let it drive you crazy. And
which could also be entertaining.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a storytelling perspective, but
right. Yeah, that's what I meant.
And then it can go the more gothic way.
And so I think that kind of overlaps the gothic romance and cosmic horror stuff. But specifically with Rodan, I think part of why it's a gothic romance cosmic horror is because you don't just have the love story between the humans, which is fairly compelling for a love story in this sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I agree, because most time if there's a love story interfering with my monster story, I'm not for that.
Yeah. But because you have the murder mystery and the Meganulon.
Oh yeah, the whole thing starts as a murder mystery. Yeah. You don't even know that, But
then you also have the love story between the Rodans. What's the plural for Rodan?
Rodani?
Rodani? You have their love story as well, which
Rhodes.
You don't even think of it as that until the one refuses to leave the other.
Yeah.
as they're dying in the lava.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's really great storytelling, and you feel so much emotion from these monsters, like you do in the first Godzilla when Dr. Serizawa was about to set off the oxygen destroyer.
Oh yeah, and he's the last.
And you just see Godzilla kind of like chilling on the ocean floor, just like
He didn't know what's coming.
walking around, doesn't know it's coming. And there's like this beat that the film has. It's like, oh, this is just a creature. And it kind of undercuts that cosmic horror element, this destruction we can't comprehend. There's a humanity to it.
And then as a mob mentality, their only way to fight that is destroy if you can't comprehend it.
And that's something we talked about with Nathaniel when we discussed King Kong.
Mm-hmm.
That when King Kong, they have two reactions.
Or exploit it.
Yeah, they have two reactions to King Kong. Can we exploit it? No, then we have to kill it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a downer.
Yeah.
But Rodan comes back in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. And then again in Invasion of Astro Monster. And then again in Destroy All Monsters.
Yeah, destroy all monsters.
Which I'm already starting to work on season 2 a little bit. And I'm trying to get a very special guest. I won't say anything on the air about who I hope to get for Destroy All Monsters. But I'm hoping. Aubrey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have always and as ever been a wonderful interviewee, wonderful discussion. I feel like I did too much talking this time.
No, you're good.
But once again, thank you so much for introducing me to this stuff and helping to shape the way I watch movies.
You're welcome.
And we hope to have you back real soon.
Okay.
And we will be back after a short message with the Record All Monsters game show, Tyrannosaurus SEX.
Oh, yeah.
Which we already recorded. Like I said, we lost the original audio for this interview.
Yeah, but I don't do that bad, I think.
No, I think you did pretty good. The listener will find out. We have a better mic setup now, too, so that old audio might be a little...
Not as good.
Yeah, might have a drop in quality. But enjoy this ad, and then enjoy the game.
Bye!
Monstrum is a skyscraper. When he moves, the whole earth quivers and quakes, and an abyss of horror opens up. See these prehistoric beasts emerge from the bowels of the earth after 200 million years to devastate mankind. Supersonic jets cannot catch him. Rockets cannot stop him. Armored tanks are helpless before him. Even guided missiles are powerless. See Rodan destroy a modern city, leveling it to the earth with a killing airstream of his mighty wings. Nothing can stop him. Nothing escapes this monstrous beast of evil.
Okay, welcome back to Record All Monsters. I'm Robert Kelly. We're here with Aubrey Masterson. We're about to play the game Tyrannosaurus SEX.
Is that because it rhymes or just derivative of the Predator when he's like, I'm a sexual Tyrannosaurus?
No, it's because it rhymes and because of the subject of our game.
Okay.
Let me to explain.
Thank you.
No, there's too much. Let me sum up. Today's movie dealt with two monsters in love with each other, kind of. There was also a human love story. But what happens when prehistoric monsters and humans share love? Seriously. No. But anyway, today's game is called Tyrannosaurus SEX. And this is how it works. I'll read you the title of a book from the Amazon Kindle series, Dinosaur Erotica by Christy Sims. And you tell me if it's actually real or if it's one I made up.
Okay.
There will be no prizes or penalties, though you may feel like I'm punishing you as you reckon with the reality of some of these titles. I was going to read the descriptions and have you guess if those were real, but,
Then I'd have nightmares.
well, yeah, no.
Like, I want to know how you came across this, because it's very niche.
Like, how did you come up with this game?
How did I come up with this game?
No, never mind. Don't tell us. Let's just talk.
Okay, first question. Is Dinosaur Lover the actual title of one of these books?
I just say yes or no?
Just say yes or no. Or real or fake, whatever.
Oh, no.
That one is fake.
Oh, good.
You're safe so far. Is Taken by the T-Rex the real title of one of these books?
I'm going to say yes, Robert.
Yes, that one is real.
Are you sure I don't win anything?
In that tiny thing.
It's like, whose line is it anyway?
Is Taken at the Dinosaur Museum a real title of one of these books?
No.
That one is real.
Really?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a dinosaur museum. There's
Look.
a museum with dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I didn't write this book. Christy Sims did.
These are all by the same person?
Yes.
Oh, my.
Is Ravished by the Triceratops a real title
That
of one
should
of
be
these
fake.
books?
Let's hope it's fake.
That one is real.
No.
Ugh.
Is In the Velociraptor's Nest the real title of one of these books, or is it fake?
I say that's real.
That one is real.
Yeah.
Clever girl.
Is Taken by the Pterodactyl the real title of one of these books, or is it fake?
I hope it's fake.
That one is real.
Really?
Yeah.
Does the Taken have a P before it?
No, it doesn't.
Come on.
But interestingly enough, did you know that you can't hear a pterodactyl when it goes to the bathroom because the P is silent?
Alright.
Last one. Is 50 Shades of Feathers and Scales a real title of part of the Amazon Kindle series Dinosaur Erotica by Christy Sims?
I would say probably not, because it'd be too much of a cliche.
You are correct.
Okay,
It
good.
is not.
Nice.
And I'm not going to repeat the name of the series or the author. If you want to go back and find that out for yourself, you sick freaks, you can. No, I'm not shaming you.
Do you have the covers?
I know.
I can show you all the covers when we're off air,
That's okay.
if you want.
No, it's okay. That's okay.
But that's it for this game. Aubrey, you did pretty good, but you don't win anything.
We could do Pictionary with the cover, with the titles.
No.
Yes.
No. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks once again to Aubrey for coming in, talking to us about Rodan. And thanks again to Aubrey for just the influence she's had in what I enjoy. Without her, there probably would not be a Record All Monsters. If you're enjoying it, you have her partially to thank. And thanks again to Courtney for her technical help acting as producer on this episode, as always. And thank you to you, the listener, for listening and telling your friends how much you love this show. Speaking of telling your friends, I'm sure you're all aware, we talked about it on the mailbag last week with Courtney about the Rondo nominations not being set for this year, and they're taking suggestions. We'd like to be nominated for a Rondo. So if you feel like you could help us with that, would you mind sending an email to taraco@aol.com? That's TARACO@aol.com. And just say, hey, I heard y'all need help filling out the nominations for the Rondos this year. Maybe you can nominate Record All Monsters Podcast for Best Multimedia Website. That's the category they have podcasts under. So send that off if you want. If you want to help the show in other ways, send me an email at recordallmonsterspod@gmail.com. That's how you can contact us the most easily. Not only that, though, you can also find us on Twitter at MonstersRecord, on Instagram at recordallmonsters.pod, and search Record All Monsters Podcast on Facebook. We also have a website, recordallmonsterspod.wordpress.com. Now, someday I am going to pay WordPress to take their name out of the name of my site, but it is not this day. This day, that'd be cheap. So thank you once again to you guys, to Courtney, to Aubrey. We'll be back not next week, week after next, with returning guest Ray Hanley from the band Bonsai Nation to talk about the Giant Claw, which is also about a flying monster, just a much, much worse movie and a much, much worse monster that I love dearly and enjoy so very much. So we'll see y'all then. And remember that monsters are your friends.